Horror has been a long-standing genre stretching back even before films and games were ever involved. But not until recently the idea of being immersed in a horror story was regulated to haunted houses that pop up only once a year. Technology that used to be a sci-fi dream though is now readily available for people to enjoy, and because of virtual reality, some of the most sinister experiences are no longer on a screen that you can look away from, but a world that you can no longer escape. The following 6 games will do just that, and if you manage to make it all the way to the end of one of these VR horror games, you may just be insane. Here They Lie is a dark psychological horror game where you play as Buddy, who is following after Dana, his lost love. This is a bizarre game, however, and even the story is not quite what it seems. At times it mixes so many different feelings, it's hard to comprehend. On one hand, it's a surreal, nightmarish experience, all while on the other, it's a very grimy, almost nauseating Sin City atmosphere. While Here They Lie certainly has some scary moments and creature designs, it's the unknown and strange world that makes it hard to stomach. Its gameplay mostly consists of walking exploration, with you needing to use some stealth at times to get past creatures. However, it's also something one might call a linear labyrinth, because you can get lost in some areas that have interconnecting parts, or go down alleys that lead to nowhere. This works really well with the game's surreal nature and makes it feel like an experience bigger than it actually is. Even though it's an older VR game at this point, it's one that will stick in the back of your head because of its blend of a unique style, spooky moments, and grotesque, surrealist visions.
People are exceptional. They are the only species that has managed to master the art of converting energy to go beyond their natural abilities.
Awaken is an unnerving, almost steampunk sci-fi horror game. You wake up as a human-sized doll in an abandoned retro-style hotel where something went seriously wrong. The question though is, who are you, and how did you find yourself in this creepy hotel? The only way to find your answer is to explore the hotel, avoid other automatons, and solve puzzles. If this alone wasn't enough to get you tense, you are also bound to a slow and loud wheelchair. Awaken has an interesting story that will keep you rolling forward, and while traversing in the wheelchair isn't for everyone, the visuals are top-notch. Ironically, the developers have seemingly acknowledged the fact that this game is too intense for some VR horror fans out there, and are currently working on an updated, non-VR version of the game. I would, however, recommend you experience this in the sole immersion of virtual reality the way it was intended.
We've been waiting a long time for this day, the blessed full moon of the 7th lunar month.
Dread-Eye is from the developers of Dread Out, and even though I've never played the latter, the former gave me the worst nervous sweats I've ever had in any game. Dread-Eye is an Indonesian horror game where you play a shaman attempting to craft and combine ingredients as you practice an ancient ritual of opening the gate to the spirit realm and communicating with the dead. For me, this game is ridiculously scary, from the opening moments setting you up with a light story but anxiety-inducing atmosphere, and this tense atmosphere elevates as you try to follow the vague instructions of a demonic cookbook, and if you get even some steps wrong, the consequences could be dire. And while I can't quite place my finger on why this game gets me so insanely tense, perhaps it's because I feel as if I'm opening a true portal to unseen forces. Regardless of any dark presence, I feel the hair standing on end whenever I see even glimpses of these apparitions. So if you enjoy Waltz of the Wizard but want a much darker edge, you may want to play Dread-Eye this spooky season. And it's only $7 on Steam. Perhaps if you'd like to see me piss my pants in fear, click the like button. If we get 500, perhaps I'll play it until the end.
But that hasn't stopped me. Nothing will. Not this forest or these people.
The Forest is by far the most mainstream of these titles, but not everyone knows that you can play this crafting survival horror game fully in VR. It can't be understated that The Forest is a scary game when you play on a flat screen with your friends online, but it's a next level experience when you play in VR by yourself. After you crash land in a forest with no other survivors in sight, you have to move quickly if you want to stay alive. During the daytime, you'll find yourself chopping down trees, exploring, and gathering supplies. However, this forest differs from others because the cannibalistic mutants come out to play. Early in the game, you might be able to fend them off for the first few nights. However, the enemy AI almost gets smarter as more time passes, and this adds even a level of anxiety to the daytime because you almost feel as if you're being watched or studied by these creatures. It's both a pretty and pretty large game to get lost in, and when you're a new player, it can become overwhelming. Let alone if you're captured and brought back to the mutants' caves where they have the advantage. Your headset has a good chance of flying off your face. Due to the game's length and replayability, it's surely only to be finished in VR by the craziest amongst us. Hinge is one of my favorite VR horror games, and I don't know if that makes me insane, but the horrific adventure within Hinge sure might make you think so. In Hinge, you're a private investigator trapped in a gorgeously dark Art Deco era hotel. However, the ethereal world and the hotel are intermingling, bringing about all sorts of cosmic terrors. The gameplay is through and through a mystery exploration game with an interesting twist on roguelite mechanics. As you're progressing through the story, you'll have to make your way to new areas of the hotel, and while many of the doors are locked, others lead into the spiritual realm. Upon each death, these spiritual realms will rearrange though, so the path you took before may lead you to a completely unexpected area next time. The extremely eerie atmosphere mixed with the random and unexpected nature of the game makes this experience insanely intense, yet the narrative is interesting enough to push the brave of heart forward. The scariest thing about Hinge though is it's still locked away on PC VR. If you think Hinge deserves to live on PSVR 2 like I do, comment down below to let the developers know. Or you can pause this video and take a guess at the final, most terrifying game to play in VR.
As well as some gold and diamond. Most noteworthy was Miss Hell's precious instant camera, which has finally found a new owner. Which has finally found a new owner. Which has finally found a new owner. Which has finally found a new owner.
Even though Madison's VR version is only launching this October, the non-VR version of the game has been out for over a year now and is still being talked about as one of the scariest games available to this day. The game's story takes place in a large house, where you take control of Luca, a teenage boy who received an instant camera for his 16th birthday. However, this camera once belonged to a serial killer nearly 30 years earlier, and now it will be used by Luca to put an end to a macabre ritual. Madison successfully combines elements of classic survival horror, for instance its love of obscure puzzles, with the folklore of using a camera to peer into the realm of the dead. The cherry on top though is its obvious inspiration from the ill-fated Silent Hill's playable teaser, with a wide variety of atmospheric and anxiety-inducing haunted house elements. Overall, the non-VR version of the game has been relatively well received, all while less than half of the people on Steam can even see it through to the end. I think that beating this game in virtual reality will deserve its own kind of special achievement, and definitely a few new pairs of jeans. Madison VR was originally slated to launch on August 21st, however it has since been pushed back to a yet unrevealed date. However, I imagine it will fall close in line with the Halloween season. Now, I will definitely be playing this in VR upon its release, but in general, October of 2023 is going to be a crazy year for VR horror. And that's because we have so many new VR horror games coming, which you can check out in this video that's popping up on the screen now, where I talk about all the latest horror games releasing. So if you're any kind of a horror fan, I would highly recommend you click on that video to see what's coming soon.